Hey Siddharth, congratulations on a 750.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you.
Awesome
Really,
achievement.
yeah.
I was looking at our chat history, Siddharth, and I saw that we were in touch in the first week of April.
Right.
And now we are in the first week of August. 5 months later, you have your target score. How does it feel?
It feels really great, and it's like it feels like an achievement in itself. I know that GMAT is like a means to an end towards the B school, but given the almost 2-year-ish journey to finally achieve 750, which is like a desired score, so like it feels like an achievement in itself. So yeah.
That's awesome, and I want to congratulate you. I believe you had taken GMAT before we got in touch. So can you?
This was my third attempt. Yes.
Okay. Can you shed some light on your previous attempts?
Yeah, so first attempt was back in 2020, or the second half of 2020, where it was mostly of a self-study. And I ended up getting a 690 there. And so I decided that maybe I need more of concept building at that point of time. And then last year, around June or July is when I gave my second attempt. It was an online GMAT, gave it from home, and I got a 710. Which was very disheartening for me because I, like in all the practice tests, at least the official GMAT, I was getting consistently 750, 760 and above. So I was expecting a minimum of 750 even at that point in time. So like, yes, I was kind of, dejected by the 710. And after that after that was like in too much of an internal debate. Like, okay, should I even think of pursuing an MBA? Is GMAT worth it, not worth it? Maybe I'll not get that score ever, right? So that is what ended up happening. And pretty much the last year went into this. And then this year, maybe in Feb, I decided that, okay, I have a 710 and I have a good experience behind me, at least in terms of work and college. So I just thought, okay, I'll give it my best shot. For a 2-year MBA, I have a total of 7 years experience right now. So that started. And then one of my friends who was told by her, like our mutual friend, about you, that you coach GMAT, and generally people see a very good turnaround in terms of the results that you've been getting. That's the point. Then I also took, okay, let's try it. And I actually told her that you try first, and then like given your feedback, then probably I'll also take the jump. Right? So that is how we started. And I remember speaking to you in early April, first week. I was visiting at a friend's place, and then you were like, "Ho jayega, we can do it." A lot of my students had that problem. Then it was like that conversation was like a spark, because I understood that, okay, it's just not me. Many other people like me face this kind of struggle, right? Typically, what ends up happening is that we hear people getting 760, 770, 740, 750, right? And it appears that, okay, unka aa gaya, right, ek baar mein. But then the backstory of it is something that we don't hear quite often.
Absolutely.
So that was there. And then, of course, then she also liked your course and the way you taught. And then I also decided to take the jump with you. And it has been like a very good interaction session, like all the classes, even the non-academic stuff that we talked about, like emotional management during the exam, time management. And then slowly, I started up realizing that, okay, the problem is not the concept. The problem is how I am dealing with the exam. And even during, the practice sessions this time around, the practice tests on GMAT Club or Veritas, I found myself, getting slightly bit personal about the question. If this CR question is almost within reach, why not spend an additional minute and, get this one right? And that is the biggest mistake that I think that I had been doing all along. And towards the week where I decided to take another GMAT attempt, I focused on only this thing, that no more study, only the cross-referencing stuff and the concept building, your notes that I generally made from the classes, right? All those things I did, but I specifically gave a lot of focus in finishing the exam, no matter what. And I made a target for myself that, okay, last 1 minute, I should be free. I must be submitting with 1 minute remaining. And last 3-4 exams were just like that. And even in the actual exam, I ended up doing almost that. Math, I submitted almost 1.5 minutes before the time, and English, I think I was 45 seconds or something.
Okay.
With returning.
That's very interesting. So I believe you made one attempt after your classroom program was over.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah. So I made the attempt feeling very confident that, okay, now I know all the concepts. I've done cross-referencing, and Shweta keeps on saying that, cross-referencing is something that will get you there. So, but I realized later is that cross-referencing I'd done very skimmishly, like I just came through that. So that was also one of the like reflections that I can make at this point of time. That attempt probably, it was not premature, but it felt like the previous attempts only, because it was an on-center exam. And when I went there, woke up in the morning, went there, Bangalore traffic, right? And the formality at the exam center, I think it got to my nerves again, and I found myself doing that. And there was actually a time in the verbal section where I was 10 minutes behind the target time, and I realized, okay, now let's just see how GMAT goes. And that was also a pretty that time for me. But then I realized, like nothing can go like worse than this, and let's give one final attempt. And in hindsight, it's a good decision that I made, that okay, let's give one more GMAT online test. Maybe that will help remove any kind of external factors or source of nervousness. So yeah, ended up taking that only and finally getting the score. Yeah.
You are one of the people responsible for this rumor going around that people should hide and give their attempts in secrecy, give me a surprise call that we've got the score. So before you, Valmik had done that. So there's a rumor going around now that yes, take a post-class plan, follow it. But when are you taking the exam? Keep it a secret, give Shweta a call and give her a surprise. So that's great. I love those surprises. But please follow a post-class plan. That's my request to everyone.
Right. Yeah, I think for the first attempt, I think I talked to you in the last week before giving the first attempt this year. But after that, like after giving that exam, it was like I was very, very disturbed, as in very dejected. So it was like I was not doing anything else. Even my office work, I finished in 2-3 hours, and I was focusing, trying to meditate and doing some personal introspection kind of stuff. How do I get there? What is the problem? What am I missing? Because I knew that conceptually I'm not missing anything. So yeah, that 15-day journey was, I think, essential.
Yeah. So I'm going to touch upon that now, Siddharth. The one point I remember when we spoke after your first attempt, I had at that point felt it's a little premature, because I wanted you to delve a little bit more into extra practice, into cross-referencing. But I was keeping my fingers crossed, because a lot of people immediately after the classroom program, without following post-class, they get lucky with their first attempt. So, but I was mentally prepared that if this doesn't work, we'll need to follow the process of post-class and the second attempt. And that's what happened, which is all right. I'm glad you went through that, period of internal introspection, turmoil in a way. I'm going to ask you two things. One, throughout your preparation journey, what was your schedule like? How did you make time to study, and how much time was it?
So, because I was not starting up when I had enrolled for you, most of the concepts were something that I was pretty, like, given enough time, I could solve them. Maybe a CR question would look like 3-minute or 3.5-minute mark for me. So yeah, but then I realized that, given that what I was learning with you, that okay, all CR questions have a pattern. This is a goal plan question, and goal goes necessarily with plan, and so on and so forth, right? I made my schedule in a way that, I would start office a bit late, so that in the mornings, maybe an hour or an hour and a half is something that I could dedicate to self-study after the classes, because our classes were also at almost 7 a.m., right? So that was one slot of the day where basically it was about, revising what was taught in the class. And the evening session after office, basically maybe 9:30 to 12, that kind of slot I kept for yourself, like practicing questions or giving small mock tests, sectional mock tests on GMAT Club, or even official guides say I would do question in a timed manner, like take 30 minutes and solve 35 or 40 sentence correction questions. So that is what I did.
Okay. Now, can you elaborate on what you were talking about, that 15-day period of introspection that happened after your first attempt? What did you do?
So I think the first thing that I did was I gave a mock test again. And it was a Veritas mock test. And I purposely gave Veritas so that I can simulate for a higher difficulty exam. And I just observed myself. Okay, I've seen the question. Now, what am I reacting? Am I not able to understand in the first 2 minutes what the question is all about, right? Or am I trying to speed read it and hoping that okay, I'll make sense of the question? That I think helped a lot. I was not intending to score. Even I did not even finish the verbal exam in that case. But I realized that okay, I am whenever I am seeing a clock, at the corner of the screen, that is what is ending up getting to me. And so the effort after that was like about giving more exams and observing, okay, let's forget the timer, read at your slightly increased natural pace and try to understand each and every word first. Start slow, and then once you're in the groove of especially verbal, and then I think things will fall in place. That is one. And second is also that I finally realized why cross-referencing is necessary, because in exams, even reading sentence correction, right? Rules don't strike as quickly as they should, especially when you're targeting a 40-45 seconds mark for a sentence correction question. So that is also the time when I realized, okay, I now have to do sentence correction, cross-referencing for not just for SC, but also for CR. Yeah, so that is something that I diligently started doing. All the evening sessions, as I said earlier, the 9:30 to 12:30 session, I did it in a way that get 10, 15, 20 questions and then cross-referencing of that and reading out about it. Okay, how could I have solved it faster? Mm-hmm. That is, I think, the key to this.
Did you do any meditation?
I did not enroll with any program as such. I knew I reached out to you for contacts. But I liked Calm as an app. It's an app which gives you a small session of meditation. But I was doing it last year. So I just made it a routine that after getting up in the morning, I will just do meditation for 10 minutes. And even in the evening, before I sit for the evening session of self-study, I will just try to do it. Or even when during the day, during the office, when I feel like flustered, okay, calm, like maybe the work is too much and I'll not get time to study. Those things, I think, yeah, especially for someone who is like a bit nervous about all this, and especially the exam, I think taking the plunge of meditation is very essential.
Did you use it on the exam day?
Exam day morning, yes, I had kept a evening session for the exam. It's like I preferred a 4 p.m. evening, because generally what happens is that if I know that sleep tonight is very necessary to perform the next day, I have a tough time sleeping precisely for that reason. So I kept evening session where I could even if I'm not able to sleep in the night, and maybe I'll get some sleep in the morning. So that was that. And yeah, I think on the exam day, a couple of times meditation, I think I did. Even in the break between the first section and the second section, also I just got out of the room, caught my breath, did a quick 2 minutes meditation.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's very insightful. So let's talk a little bit more specific now. What did you do to Quant?
Quant, yeah, I think Quant has also been a journey for me, because till last year, I never even targeted a 51 score, because all my mocks, I always ended up making at least 4 to 5 questions worth of silly mistake. And probability and PNC were my most hated subjects. I thought, okay, question aayega, I'll just leave. I'll mark something randomly, and I would do that. But this year, maybe I was a bit more systematic about it. I started, questioning myself, okay, why take 4C3 versus 4P3? Where should n factorial come, right? So I think, April, May was also that time when I started questioning myself. And the rest of the math concept, for any engineer are pretty trivial stuff. Getting 49 and above is not the challenge. Getting 51 is the challenge actually in GMAT quant for especially engineers of our background.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's the good thing about good or bad depending on how you tackle it. But the thing about GMAT quant, it's not about math. It's also about presence of mind, reasoning, questioning yourself. Okay, am I introducing a bias there? A lot of time used to happen. Okay, send statement one and statement two, right? Quickly someone would read statement one and get biased with that information while applying statement two. And instead of B, the answer becomes C, and so on and so forth. So yeah, math mein, this was my approach of questioning everything and taking like maybe the first leg of re-preparation a bit slow. Why am I thinking about something the way I'm thinking about in real time? That I think is very essential.
I think both quant and verbal have this major element of reasoning. You can see that more in verbal. It's more obvious.
Right. Yes.
It's hidden in quant, but
yes.
you are ultimately testing your reasoning skills. That's why you can't be an English professor, so to say, or a grammarian to crack the verbal.
Right.
Okay, wonderful. So I think you have your score sheet with you. Can we take a look at it?
Sure. Just 1 second.
How did you celebrate your score?
The day I got, so right, my score was held up. So it was kind of a mixed feeling because when the exam got over, when the score flashed on my screen, it was a very happy moment for me. And believing, like seeing 51 in quant and 40 in verbal was like almost like, wow, this is something that I was not expecting while I was giving the exam also, right? But then, the official score didn't come, and then I got a mail that the exams have been held up, the results have been held up. So it was also a bit of turmoil going on in my head that maybe what if GMAT cancels my score? Then what do I do? Will I get lucky the next time when I'm giving GMAT or not? All those kind of negative emotions were there, but frankly, thankfully, I think they released my score. So yeah, that was there. Celebration it was a quiet celebration only because we were moving from one house to other house on that day where the final score came in, and I went with my family to a restaurant and then.
Okay, awesome. So for the benefit of those who are listening to us, I want to make this clear that it's a very random procedure that happens, and it happens more in the peak season that we've observed over the last 2 years, ever since they came out with the online GMAT. So in the peak season, they typically pull out a few attempts which have been made online. And we've seen this typically with the high scorers, and they do a review. And of course, the review can get instigated because of something that goes wrong during your exam. Maybe your link didn't work and they had to generate another link. So if they have any red flags, they will definitely put your exam under review, but they can do a random selection also. And we've seen anything between 3 to 10 days, they generally get done with the review and they release the scores. Once your score has been released, once you have the official score, generally that's where the review ends. You don't need to worry after that. And I think that you went through the same process.
Yes.
Cool. Let's see your.
So I have my score. I'll just quickly share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, it's starting now. Yes, it's visible now.
Yeah. So this was the breakup. Quant 51, verbal 40. Integrated reasoning was a surprise, slightly bittersweet element of my good score is integrated reasoning. I am not sure what happened, but yeah, it felt really difficult while attempting the integrated reasoning. Maybe I got stuck in 1 or 2 questions, but yeah.
I don't think it should be held against you. We would have been happier with a 6 and above, but I don't think 5 would be held against you because it's just 1 out of the 4 components.
Right.
That's okay. I'm glad AWA is at 5. So that balances it out. Let's take a look at one of your prep tests, Siddharth, that works close to this so that we'll understand how this 51 and 40 happened.
Once.
Then you can also, when you're taking us through the prep test, you can throw some light on what were the specifics on SC, RC, CR, where was accuracy important, where was speed important?
Sure.
And I'd like to make this very clear that while there are a host of online tests that we can do, practice tests, we must stay close to the official prep test as much as possible, especially when we are in the last few weeks to the exam. Nothing beats the official prep test, no matter how many times you've done them. And this is very reflective, it's very interesting, because I'd like to believe that for most of us who are not robotic, we react, we're emotional people. So for most of us, the prep test versus the actual exam, we'll experience a 2-3 point dip. And that happens usually because of verbal, like you've seen 44 becoming 40. That's pretty normal. So 770 becoming 750 is normal. Who are the people who get 770 and above? Those who are able to replicate their prep test scores. They are in the category of superhuman. They react very little emotionally. And that's how they're able to sustain those scores. So one thing that I keep repeating to everyone who's in the prep test phase, that you should target a 770 and above scores in a stable manner, at least across 3-4 prep tests. So you know for sure that you're going to get a 750. And I think that's what you experienced too. So can you tell us, Siddharth, how many errors do you think you would have made to get that 51 on quant?
Like in the practice test, I think it was all correct.
Right.
And for verbal, it was 3 incorrect out of 36.
So normally we see that a score of 40 can involve 6 to 8 errors, but usually those errors don't include RC. The fewer your RC errors, the higher your score. That's normally the logic we go by. So can you filter and show us what were these errors, these 3 errors?
Sure. This is, I think,
okay. I think we have 1 CR, 1 RC, I can see, or maybe there are 2 CR and 1 RC.
Yeah, I'll just maybe. These are 2 RC and 1 sentence correction.
Okay, so no CR errors. 2 RC and 1 SC error gave you a 44. I am just assuming that this implies you had minimal errors on all 3 to get that 40, but perhaps you had a mix, like maybe 2 CR, 2 RC, 2 SC, something of that sort.
Yeah, I think I might have made a few errors in CR, because even during the exam, I was struggling a bit for understanding CR. RC and SC, thankfully, were very, very quick to come to me during the exam. But yeah, CR gave me a hard time.
Okay.
Might be that. Yeah.
Can you share, Siddharth, now what was specific about your prep on SC? What was your time management like? What tools were you using? What was the most important takeaway?
I think SC may, at least while I was doing the self-study phase, before I engaging with you, the host of material on GMAT Club and YouTube were all about meaning-based approach. And while that's good for accuracy, it really screws with your speed. And it also makes you believe that SC somehow is the most important element of the entire verbal journey. But when I met you, and then in the first class you had clearly told me that SC mein 2-3 galti bhi, it's okay, but you should focus a lot more on maybe CR and RC. And by and by, when I studied your approach and learned from it, all the rules application, not even reading the entire question that carefully, and maybe even filtering out, okay, what to read, where's the main verb, where's the subject, what the subject is doing, plural, subject, verb, agreement, and all sort of rules, right? that is where it kind of, started coming to me, ki, okay, 40 seconds, 50 seconds, max to max, 1 minute, or for longer questions, maybe 1 minute, 10 seconds, right? That even like that, gave me a lot of, comfort during the exam, because I could now spend a little bit more time on, solving those, like tricky primary purpose questions, for RC or even CR, right? And even in these scores, as I started, making fewer RC and CR mistakes, the scores really, really went up, at least in all the official GMAT tests. So that was there. SC ke liye specifically, while I knew all the rules earlier, but they were always in like, okay, I'll study the meaning and then derive, okay, what's the author trying to say, and then therefore what is fitting. After studying all the preferences and rules, because of preference for that, and so on and so forth, right? It's like predicting ki, okay, what is this question really asking for? And a question which is like not more than, a sentence long, that I have had cases where about like it took maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds to solve. So getting those rules known by heart, and for which the only practical way is to do a lot of cross-referencing is the only way to, crack that, I would say.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense, because you get freedom from meaning, you free up time, you free up mental bandwidth. So how did that reflect now on your RC performance? What was the main learning? What was the learning curve on RC? How did you bring down your errors to just 1 or 2 on the exam?
RC mein, RC is also a pretty interesting case, because till almost 1.5 months back, 1.5 months, I was like, okay, I have got like making notes and other things, but I was either making a lot longer notes, the structure that we make for an RC during solving. And then after that, I found myself not referring back to those, because of course you can't, it's like 10 lines. And then I dropped the idea of, okay, I'll not make a structure. But then I realized that if you don't make the structure, the other questions will really take a lot of time to go back to the passage, and to capture the entire meaning of all the details in a RC takes at least 4 to 5 minutes to read. And if you miss something there, or at least in structure or whatever, right, the purpose of a passage, then you can't go back, then you're out of time. So I think this was one of the most crucial decisions that I took, that okay, I will leave what I knew about RC and try to finish the structure in max 5 to 7 lines, maybe very shorthand, and 1 to 2 lines for each of the paragraphs. I think that was the biggest input to my entire preparation, because that gave me an opportunity to, skip the details, while also understanding, okay, what is the author trying to say? What is this line, or what is this parody, doing in this entire scheme of things, right? So I think that was the most crucial thing. And yeah, rest is about, going back to the paragraph, location matching, word matching, meaning matching, tone matching. All those are very, very crucial rules.
And how did CR change?
CR, CR may like CR was, for me at least, CR is a bit moody. Depending on the day, CR can be a very smooth sail, or it can be a very rough sail also for me. And at least in the practice exam, I did not make any mistake in CR, but in the exam day, again, because of whatever little anxiety that I might have had. So CR is something there, but yeah, I think the rules that we studied, that goal plan, even two plan, like plan A, plan B, and then what is the, question might be about, right? That kind of intuition building is, I think, very, very important for CR. Because in the exam, if you are a bit nervous, I think CR is the most difficult thing to crack, because you have got to understand, okay, what's the premise, what's the conclusion, like what group is being referred to in the conclusion. All those things are very, very important. And if you don't, do that, then all the options will start appearing the same to you. And then you will kind of lose it. Okay, now let's mark something and then move on. So identifying all those rules and patterns, okay, if goal is there, then most likely look for a plan, right? If the goal is there, don't move from, like, even without a goal, don't move from, specific to general. All those rules are really, really important. And one should, practice it enough so that, it's like a second nature to anyone. That whenever you see that question, the first thing that that should come to my mind is, okay, what's my goal? What group is being referred to? And okay, what are my expected answers? The thinking of sorts, basically.
So to get that into your system, you cross-referenced a lot of CR?
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, cross-referencing, CR May, it was mostly about the classification that I think you were teaching in the class, that psychology-based or data-based, inference-based. So I started classifying all the questions, at least mentally, while solving. And I think that over time brought the most likely set of, things to look out for in that question and really solve it in time.
Okay, wonderful. Let's see you full screen.
Okay. Sorry.
So where all are you applying now, Siddharth?
I am a bit late about R1. So I am writing Kellogg at the moment, at this moment. And probably I'll be applying to Sloan also in R1, and maybe one safety school, maybe Tuck or Ross. HSW and Booth or Columbia is something that I'm majorly targeting for R2.
Okay, makes sense. I'm sure the R1 experience will give you a lot of support when you target the dream schools in R2. That's a good strategy. And you have a lot of your seniors now in our group in the schools. So reach out to them. Get
sure.
Once they land at HPS, they will have a lot of stuff to share.
Right.
Okay.
Definitely, I think that that will help a lot to anyone.
So I'm looking forward to seeing you in Bangalore very soon.
Sure.
And you are my first student from IIT Guwahati. So I'm very happy that we have opened Guwahati's account with your performance.
Right.
We have a major student hub in Khandelwal, in Madras, in Delhi. I've also got a lot of students from Kanpur and Roorkee, Bombay, but you're the first from Guwahati. Awesome. Wishing you all the best with your application, Siddharth, and I'm sure there's a very, very bright future ahead of you.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.